There comes a moment, not on the clock of the world, but on the clock of the soul, where something inside you whispers or perhaps finally dares to shout that you were never meant to stay dim. You were never meant to fold yourself small enough to fit someone else's mold. You were not designed to tiptoe through life, hoping not to disturb the expectations that have kept you hidden. No, you were born to shine, to radiate with such fullness that even your shadow begins to glow. But the tragedy, the gentle, avoidable tragedy, is that so many wait. They wait for applause. They wait for validation. They wait for someone to tell them it's your turn now. But what if the permission you've been waiting for is already within you? The truth is, no one will hand you a golden key and say, now you may become yourself. Life does not offer certificates for authenticity. There is no degree in being real. Your soul came here not to be approved of, but to be revealed. You were not born to seek light from others. You were born to remember that you are the light. When you wait for permission, you're forgetting the truth of your being. You're forgetting that the universe does not operate on a system of worthiness metrics. The stars don't ask the sky if it's okay to shine tonight. The ocean doesn't apologize for rising. The trees do not shrink in springtime. They bloom not because they are told they're good enough, but because it is their nature to bloom. And so it is with you. You don't need someone else to recognize your value before you live in it. You don't need the crowd to cheer before you rise. You don't need the world to say now before you speak your truth. The divine essence within you, the infinite intelligence, the sacred energy that breathes you, has never once withheld its approval. Only the ego does that. Only the mind builds prisons out of past experiences and labels them truth. But your soul knows. Your soul remembers the blueprint that existed before you were taught to perform. It knows the sound of your voice before it was tamed. It knows your laughter before it was labeled too loud. It knows your ideas before they were called unrealistic. And so the invitation is this: remember who you are beneath the performance. Reclaim the right to stand tall in your own light. To speak words not rehearsed for safety, but born from your deepest knowing. You were not born for rehearsed approval. You were born for radical authenticity. Let the world adjust. You may have been conditioned to believe that humility means hiding, but true humility is not denial of your gifts. It is reverence for the source from which they come. And if your gifts come from God, from Spirit, from the infinite, then who are you to silence them? Who are you to pretend you are less than divine? Don't confuse shrinking with humility. Don't confuse silence with peace. Don't confuse approval with alignment. Alignment doesn't feel like applause. It feels like freedom. It feels like no longer betraying yourself to be accepted. It feels like no longer dimming your insight to make others more comfortable. It feels like no longer waiting for someone to give you the go-ahead to be magnificent. You see, we live in a world where the masses wait. They wait for a nod from culture, from religion, from family, from media, and in the waiting, their spirit grows weary. Their voice grows hoarse from whispering truths they dare not speak. But your life, your one sacred, luminous life, was never meant to be lived on standby. Why do we wait? We wait because we were taught to fear our power. Because somewhere along the way, we internalize the lie that shining makes others uncomfortable. That authenticity is a risk. That confidence is arrogance. But these are distortions, not truths. Confidence is a form of gratitude. Confidence is saying, thank you, life, for this breath, this body, this idea, this vision. I will not waste them. Arrogance is rooted in separation, but confidence, real confidence, is rooted in unity with Spirit. When you shine from the place of Spirit, you are not outshining anyone. You are inviting others to remember that they too have light. You become a lighthouse, not a spotlight. You become an invitation, not an imposition. You become free. And in your freedom, you give others permission to consider that they too can be free. The world needs your shine. Not the curated version, not the filtered self, not the one that waits for perfect timing. The world needs the real, raw, radiant you. And perhaps more importantly, you need you. You need the you that doesn't ask for permission. You need the you that dares to walk barefoot through the uncertainty and say, still, I choose truth. You need the you that sings even when the world is quiet. You need the you that cries and loves and creates without apology. This is not just about expression. It's about alignment. It's about remembering that the energy that dreamed stars into being also dreamed you. What if you saw yourself that way? What if you treated your thoughts like seeds and your attention like sunlight? What might blossom if you stopped giving all your energy to fear and started feeding faith instead? So many are waiting for a sign. But the sign is you. Your longing is the sign. Your yearning is the compass. Your dissatisfaction is holy. It is the soul's whisper saying, there is more for you. And it's not more achievement, not more applause. It's more alignment, more truth, more light. Stop waiting for perfect. Stop waiting for readiness. Stop waiting for certainty. They are illusions of the ego. Life responds to energy, not hesitation. Spirit speaks to movement, not delay. The moment you declare, I am no longer waiting to be myself, the universe rearranges itself to meet your courage. And yes, not everyone will understand, not everyone will celebrate, but your soul will sigh in relief. And that peace, that deep soul-level peace, is worth more than 1,000 hollow claps. You were not sent here to be understood. You were sent here to be whole, to live a life that feels like you, to breathe air that tastes of freedom, to create not for applause, but for alignment, to love without guardrails, to speak without trembling, to stand without crutches, to shine without waiting. And when you do, when you finally release the need to be allowed, something miraculous happens. You begin to see that the world was never your jailer. Your own mind was. You begin to see that all the locked doors were made of paper. You begin to see that your radiance was never the problem. Your forgetting was. And now you remember that you are not your name or your job or your roles. You are a divine expression of infinite intelligence, having a temporary human experience. You remember that your value is not in your doing, but in your being. You remember that you are not broken, you are blooming, not late, not behind, right on divine time. So here's the truth that will set you free. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need to wait. You only need to remember and then shine. ChatGPT, Dyer, you are the answer to a prayer the universe made to itself. You are not an accident, not an extra, not an accessory to someone else's journey. You are the spark that was sent to illuminate a corner of this vast, hungry world that only your soul knows how to touch. So why dim that flame because someone else forgot how to burn? Why hush your voice because someone else is afraid of their own echo? Why hesitate when every breath you take is already proof that you are chosen? Not chosen above others, but chosen for life, for light, for the sacred task of being utterly, unapologetically you. And still the mind resists. It says, but what if I'm wrong? The ego whispers, what if I fail? But failure only exists in the currency of fear. In the language of the soul, there is only movement, only growth, only becoming. There is no such thing as wasted light. Even the flicker of a candle in the darkest cave changes the atmosphere. Your presence is power. Your energy alters rooms. Your truth ripples through time in ways you may never witness, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Don't ask, who am I to shine? Ask, who am I not to? Don't ask, what will they think of me? Ask, what will I think of myself if I betray this call one more time? Don't ask, what if I'm too much? Ask, what if I'm finally enough for myself? Because that's where the healing begins, when you decide that your life is yours again. When you stop outsourcing your worth and start coming home to the quiet, bold truth of your own being. You are not the version of yourself that others created. You are not the echo of their fears or the canvas of their projections. You are not a reaction. You are a revelation. You are not here to fulfill their stories. You are here to write your own. You are the author, the ink, the page, and the breath that turns it. And when you own that, truly own it, the entire cosmos seems to conspire in your favor, not because you've become something new, but because you finally become what you always were. There is something holy about no longer needing to be liked. Something liberating about no longer trying to be understood. When you let go of those shackles, you become wild in the most sacred sense. Not reckless, but whole. Not chaotic, but true. You become aligned with the rhythm of your own soul. And that rhythm is what the world has been starving for. Not more carbon copies, not more mimicry, but people who walk with the sound of God in their step and the weight of their own truth in their spine. Do not wait for someone to crown you worthy. You are already royal in the realm of spirit. Do not wait for someone to grant you access to joy. It has always been your birthright. Do not wait for the external to catch up with your internal knowing. Lead with it. Trust that the invisible becomes visible when you live as though it's already real. Walk like it. Speak like it. Create like it. Heal like it. You see, the world doesn't need another polished version of someone else's dream. It needs your raw essence. It needs your tears, your belly laughs, your curious mind, your messy truth. It needs the way you notice beauty in places others overlook. It needs the way you hold space, the way you say what others are afraid to, the way you break open and still bless the sky with gratitude. Permission is a prison if you think it must come from outside you. Real power is quiet, not because it's unsure, but because it doesn't beg. It moves, it decides, it declares. And this is your declaration. I will no longer betray myself for the comfort of others. I will no longer silence my voice so others don't feel confronted by truth. I will no longer tiptoe through my own purpose. I will stand, I will rise, I will shine. And let those who fear light look away. You were not sent here to be agreeable. You were sent here to be aligned. Agreement changes with the wind. Alignment lives in eternity. The moment you choose alignment, even if you tremble, even if your knees shake the moment you choose it, you become a portal for possibility. The universe begins to say, finally, she remembers, he knows, they're ready. And no, it won't always be easy. You will be challenged. You will be doubted. You may even doubt yourself. But the soul doesn't ask for easy, it asks for true. The soul doesn't crave comfort, it craves expansion. And when you give it that, when you say yes to the full expression of yourself, healing happens in dimensions you cannot see. You become the mirror others didn't know they were looking for. You become the invitation others didn't know they were waiting for. You become the example of what it looks like to be free. Not because you did everything right, but because you stopped pretending you were wrong to begin with. This is not just about you. This is about the ripple you create by becoming real. Every act of courage, every moment you speak from the soul sends a wave into the collective field. You liberate not only yourself, but all those silently waiting for someone to go first. So go first. Be the one who doesn't flinch when others win. Be the one who speaks kindness in rooms where cruelty is fashionable. Be the one who listens to their inner voice louder than the world's noise. Be the one who forgives, because freedom matters more than resentment. Be the one who shines not because it's easy, but because it's your truth. And when you live like this, your life becomes not just a journey, but a testimony. A living, breathing, radiant proof that you never needed permission. Only remembrance, only courage, only love. Because that's what it all comes down to. Love. Not the shallow version sold in stories, but the deep, unwavering, untamed love that says, I see you. I honor you. I will no longer betray you. That kind of love is the soil from which your radiance grows. That kind of love is the only foundation strong enough to hold the full expression of who you are. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not unfinished. You are unfolding like the sky at dawn, soft, then bold, then glorious. And just like the sun doesn't ask the moon for permission to rise, neither should you. Just rise. Even if they don't clap, rise. Even if they call it selfish, rise. Even if your voice shakes, rise. Even if you're unsure, rise. Because the rising is not a performance, it's a return to truth, a return to source, a return to the you that always was, underneath the noise, beneath the masks, beyond the waiting. And the moment you stop waiting, you start living, truly living. No longer acting out someone else's script, but writing your own in bold, bright, beautiful strokes. So shine, dear soul. Shine because you can. Shine because you must. Shine because you were born to. And in your shining, may others remember they are light too. Let this be the turning point. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions feel favorable, but now. Because now is all you've ever truly had. The future is an echo of your present decisions. And the past is a teacher, not a master. So drop the illusion that your greatness is somewhere out there waiting for the perfect alignment. The alignment begins inside. It begins with a quiet yes, a yes to yourself, to your voice, to your vision. That yes ripples through your nervous system like electricity awakening dormant wires, and suddenly what was sleeping begins to rise. And when you rise, you will scare the parts of others still pretending to sleep. They may project, they may retreat, they may misunderstand, but remember, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to stay in the light, even when it feels unfamiliar, even when it's lonely, even when the echo of doubt calls you back into the shadows. Because you weren't meant to dwell in the shadows of your potential. You were meant to illuminate them. You were meant to take the unloved parts of yourself and say, even you belong. You were meant to gather the rejected corners of your being and bring them home to integrate, not exile. To forgive, not condemn. To heal, not hide. And as you do this, you become whole. Not perfect, not polished, but whole. A living embodiment of divine restoration. You don't need to wait until you've fixed every flaw to show up in your brilliance. That's another trick of the ego, that you must earn your place, that you must prove your worthiness, but you were born worthy. Before the labels, before the roles, before the conditioning, you were whole. You are still whole. Your light does not depend on your performance, it depends on your remembrance. So remember this, you are not your mistakes. You are not your regrets. You are not your trauma. You are the consciousness that has endured. You are the presence that has grown. You are the soul that has learned to rise not in spite of it all, but because of it. And that's why your shine matters. Because it's not naive, it's not pretend, it's not surface deep. It is the light forged in fire, born from the ashes of your becoming. It is the shine of someone who has walked through darkness and still chose love. The shine of someone who has faced silence and still chose voice. The shine of someone who has known rejection and still chose to open. You are that shine. And every moment you choose to live from that place, from love, from truth, from courage, you alter the frequency of this planet. Not metaphorically, literally. Your consciousness becomes a signal, and others, still lost in the fog of waiting, feel that signal. They feel your freedom, and something in them remembers their own. You don't shine for validation. You shine because it's medicine. You shine because the world is sick with fear, and your authenticity is the antidote. You shine because it is the most honest thing you can do, the most spiritual thing, the most healing thing. And this shine doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's the soft no that honors your boundaries. Sometimes it's the silent prayer you whisper for a stranger. Sometimes it's the decision to rest when the world pushes productivity. Sometimes it's just being fully, freely, unapologetically you. No mask, no pretense, just essence. And as you do this, the old world begins to fade. The world of pretending, of performing, of seeking outside what only exists within, that world crumbles in the presence of truth. And you, your soul, your radiance, your voice become the bridge to something new. A world where people remember they were always free. A world where hearts speak louder than algorithms. A world where permission is obsolete because truth has taken its place. So shine. Not for approval, but for revolution. Shine, not to be better than, but to be more of. Shine, not as a performance, but as a prayer. A prayer that says, I remember who I am. I remember what I came for. I remember that I am not separate from the divine. I am an expression of it. And I no longer wait for the world to allow that. I choose it. I choose it now. Let that be your mantra. I choose it now. I choose to live, to love, to speak, to be now. Not someday, not maybe, now. Because the world doesn't need another obedient soul. It needs a soul on fire. A soul so fully awake that even silence becomes a sermon. A soul so deeply aligned that even their presence is a liberation. That's what you are. That's what you've always been. So breathe in your enoughness. Breathe out the waiting. Walk in your knowing. Stand in your presence. And shine like it's what you were born to do. Because it is. And so we arrive at the holy edge of remembering the place where all pretending ends and all truth begins. This is the threshold where the soul takes the pen back from fear, where the inner voice no longer whispers but sings, where your very breath becomes a proclamation of freedom. You are not waiting anymore. You are not hoping to be noticed, hoping to be chosen, hoping to be seen. You are already chosen by the mere miracle of existing. You are already seen by the very intelligence that wove galaxies and still found time to sculpt you. You came here with everything you need. The light is not something you earn, it is something you reveal. It is peel back, one choice at a time, each time you say yes to truth instead of safety, to presence instead of performance, to freedom instead of familiarity. It glows more with every risk of authenticity, every refusal to dim, every sacred moment you dare to be the real you. And the ego will still try to reclaim the reins. It will tell you that you must wait until you're perfect, that you must first heal every wound, gain every credential, earn every badge. But the soul knows better. The soul knows you are already a vessel for divine energy, not because you've become flawless, but because you finally stopped resisting your essence. You are not powerful because you force the light. You are powerful because you remember you are it. Let go of the guilt for wanting to be seen. That is not vanity. That is divinity, calling itself forward through your eyes. Let go of the fear that your truth will alienate you. If it does, let what was false fall away. Let go of the fantasy that one day the world will hand you a golden hour. The moment you declare your light sacred, that hour begins. You don't need the room to be ready. You just need to be willing to stand even if your knees shake. Willing to love even if your heart was broken. Willing to speak even if your voice wavers. Willing to show up not when you are done evolving, but precisely because you are. Life doesn't wait for you to become perfect. It rushes in the moment you become real. That's the miracle. That's the shift. That's the exact second when the caterpillar no longer mourns its shell, but stretches toward the wings it once feared were too much. And let me remind you of this one more time, not because you haven't heard it, but because repetition is the rhythm of remembering you are not your doubt. You are not your fear. You are not your past. You are not your wounds. You are not your title. You are not your roles. You are not your trauma. You are not your projections. You are not what they told you you could or couldn't be. You are soul. You are presence. You are breath and stardust. You are poetry dressed in skin. You are the living expression of something eternal. And when you shine, when you finally let that truth breathe through you without filter, without compromise, you don't just change your life, you ignite a fire in the field of humanity that says, we are allowed to be ourselves. We are allowed to be enough. We are allowed to be radiant without explanation. You become an embodiment of what the world forgot, that we are all divine, all needed, all sacred, all vessels of light, and that no one has the authority to revoke that. Not culture, not shame, not history, not religion, not fear. There is no gatekeeper to your soul. There is no lock on the door of your truth. Only the illusion that you must wait. And today, this moment, is the undoing of that lie. Let it all go. Let go of the apologies, let go of the comparisons, let go of the guilt for simply existing in your fullness. Let go of the habit of asking for permission to be beautiful, to be bold, to be true. Let go of the need to earn your light and begin to embody it. From this day forward, live like the sun that forgot how to dim. Walk like you've already been welcomed by the cosmos. Speak like the breath in your lungs is sacred. Act like your life is the only stage where this particular soul of yours will ever dance. And when the fear arises, because it will meet it with compassion, but do not obey it. Let it sit beside you, but do not give it the map. You are not here to be led by fear. You are here to be led by spirit. And spirit is not waiting. The time is not coming. The time is now. You are not almost ready. You are already chosen. You are not lost. You are awakening. You are not broken. You are remembering. And the light you are, the infinite, radiant, untamable light, is no longer a seed waiting to bloom. It is a flame that has caught fire, and the world, ready or not, will have to adjust to your radiance. You've waited long enough. So this is it. This is the moment. You stop waiting for permission. You take up your space. You raise your voice. You forgive yourself. You love yourself. You remember yourself, and then you shine. There is a quiet place within you that has never moved, never chased, never feared, and never doubted. It is not stirred by applause, nor silenced by rejection. It is not confused by your pain, nor distracted by your plans. It does not race ahead or fall behind. This place, this sacred stillness is your soul, and it waits for you. The mind is a wanderer, a traveler with no map and too many destinations. It clings to clocks and calendars, forecasts and fears. It builds futures from memory, and past from imagination. It thrives on noise. It is addicted to answers, yet it rarely pauses to ask the real questions. It fills your inner world with commentary, comparison, and concern, all in the name of safety, identity, and progress. But what it truly fears is stillness. Because in stillness, the mind loses its throne. In silence, the ego becomes transparent. And when all the stories fade, you are faced with what has always been the radiant presence of the soul, undisturbed, eternal, whole. The soul is never lost. You are never disconnected. What happens is simpler than all the narratives your mind spins to explain the ache inside. The mind wanders and the soul waits. It waits not in judgment, but in love. It doesn't punish you for your detours, your distractions, your dramas. It does not label your delay as failure. The soul is the great witness, the candle that never goes out, no matter how dark the mind storms become. And when you tire of searching, when you finally grow weary of being everything for everyone, it is there, quietly glowing, saying, "Welcome home." You see, your suffering is not the result of the world. It is not the fault of your past or the flaws you believe you carry. Your suffering comes from identification, from believing you are the noise in your mind rather than the light in your being. The mind says, "You are broken, so fix." The soul says, "You are whole, remember." The mind screams, "Run faster, try harder, control more." The soul whispers, "Be still." The mind asks, "Who am I?" in their eyes. The soul asks, "Who am I?" without their eyes. And so, the great journey of awakening is not about adding more knowledge, more success, more achievements. It is about subtracting what never belonged to you. It is not about becoming someone, but unbecoming the false ideas that kept you from being. The soul does not shout because it does not need to. Truth never argues with illusion. Light does not battle the dark, it simply shines, and the dark disappears. Your soul does not need to win your attention. It simply waits until you exhaust your addiction to wandering. And oh, how we wander. We wander through roles and titles, forgetting that identity is not essence. We wander through relationships, hoping to find in another what we've forgotten within. We wander through religions and philosophies, mistaking the finger pointing to the moon for the moon itself. We wander through time, trying to resurrect the past or rehearse the future, yet missing the only place the soul lives, now. You cannot arrive where you already are. You cannot earn what you already embody. You cannot chase what has never left you. But the mind will try. It is a master of distractions dressed as desires. It tells you, just one more goal, just one more apology, just one more dollar, one more compliment, one more answer, and then you'll be okay. But your soul does not play that game. It already knows you are okay. Not in the way the world defines it, not in the way the mind demands it, but in a higher, deeper, everlasting sense. You are okay because you are a spark of the infinite. You are okay because you are not the noise, you are the silence behind it. You are okay because you are not the body that breaks or the thoughts that change. You are the awareness that holds them both. But don't expect the mind to applaud this revelation. It thrives on urgency. It fears peace because peace makes it irrelevant. It cannot control what it cannot understand, and it cannot understand what it cannot divide. The soul cannot be divided. It is not part of you, it is what you are. Your mind is a tool, sharp, fast, necessary. But it was never meant to drive the vehicle. It was meant to serve the heart, not rule the being. When the mind leads, you end up exhausted, even when you succeed. When the soul leads, there is rest, even in motion. There is clarity, even amidst uncertainty. There is love, even in the presence of pain. The mind collects. The soul releases. The mind tries to define you. The soul invites you to dissolve into the undefinable. The mind wants answers. The soul becomes the question. What if the peace you're seeking is not found in changing your life, but in changing your relationship to your thoughts? What if your inner war ends the moment you stop believing every fearful thing your mind tells you? What if the path back to joy is not a climb, but a surrender? Surrender. Not as weakness, but as alignment. Not as giving up, but as waking up. Surrender to this moment, to this breath, to this eternal now, where the soul waits in quiet presence. Where nothing needs to be fixed, solved, or figured out, only felt, only allowed, only witnessed. In this sacred space, miracles are not performed, they are remembered. You are not here to become something other than what you are. You are here to realize what you've never stopped being. The soul never left. It's just been patiently waiting for the mind to stop chasing clouds and notice the sky. The sky that has always held you, the sky that never fought the storm yet never lost its nature. You don't need more time to be free. You need less mind to notice you already are. Let the mind wander, if it must, but don't follow it. Witness it, the way you would watch leaves float down a stream. Let them pass. You are not the leaf, you are not the stream. You are the stillness beneath the current, the spaciousness behind the motion. You are not what moves. You are what allows movement. And in that realization, something within you will break beautifully. The grip will loosen, the story will soften. And for the first time, perhaps in years, you'll feel it. That quiet radiance, that sacred presence, that home you never truly left. The soul was never impatient. It knew this moment would come. It knew that one day, after all the proving and pushing and pretending, you would fall to your knees, not in despair, but in awe, in surrender, in remembrance. And when you do, the soul does not say, "Where have you been?" It says, "I've been here all along." Because it never needed you to change, it only waited for you to see. And so the return begins not in lightning strikes or grand awakenings, but in the simple turning of attention inward, in the pause between thoughts, in the breath you didn't notice you were holding, in the moment you finally allow yourself to stop running, not because the world has quieted, but because you have. There is no need to chase enlightenment, as if it were some distant treasure buried beneath lifetimes of mistakes. It is here, now, humming beneath the surface of your striving. It is in the stillness between your words. It is in the space behind your eyes. It is in the warmth you feel when you stop bracing against life and allow it to wash through you like a river returning to the ocean. The soul does not speak in volume. It speaks in presence. It does not compete for your attention because it knows it cannot be erased, only ignored, and even your ignorance of it cannot diminish its truth. The soul is not altered by your forgetting. It is only hidden behind the clouds of your becoming. But becoming is the way of the mind always trying to become and never quite satisfied with simply being. The mind wants to arrive. The soul wants to dissolve. The mind says, "I am not enough yet." The soul whispers, "You were never less than divine." And that whisper is all it takes, a single silent breath of eternity breaking through the illusion of separation. One moment of deep remembering, and lifetimes of fear begin to fade like shadows at sunrise. You do not need to fix the noise. You only need to return to the silence beneath it. You do not need to control your thoughts. You need only to stop obeying them. Can you feel it now? That subtle warmth in your chest when you let go of trying to understand everything? That sacred exhale when you stop negotiating with your pain and simply sit beside it as a friend who needs no explanation? That is the soul. That is the home your mind forgot it had. There is no need to punish the mind for wandering. It is what it does. It was shaped by the world to do so. It learned early that love must be earned, that safety must be managed, that joy must be delayed. But none of that was true. It was merely inherited, a costume passed down from ancestors too tired to question the script. But you are here now, awake enough to feel the costume tightening, aware enough to know that what you've been calling you is mostly habit, brave enough to shed the mask, even if only for a moment, and feel the vastness underneath. The soul has always been vast. It is not interested in your resume. It does not measure worth by performance. It does not care how much money you have, how many followers approve of your image, or how many tasks you completed before sunrise. The soul is only interested in one thing: your freedom, not external freedom, but the kind that cannot be revoked, the freedom to be yourself without apology, without disguise, without fear. When the mind runs, the soul waits. It waits like an ancient tree, unmoving, unjudging, deeply rooted in eternal presence. It does not beg you to return. It knows you will. Because no matter how far the mind wanders, it always tires of its own noise. Eventually, the seeking becomes heavy, the striving turns hollow, and the soul, ever still, becomes magnetic. Not because it changes, but because you finally remember how good it feels to come home. That is the true miracle, not transformation, but remembrance. To remember who you were before the world taught you to forget. To remember what it feels like to live without needing permission. To laugh without waiting for the right moment. To cry without justification. To love without walls. You do not need to heal by fixing yourself. You heal by letting go of what was never truly you. The false identities, the limiting stories, the inherited fears, these are not your soul's language. They are the noise the mind learned to speak in a world that had forgotten how to listen. But you can listen again, you can tune back in, you can place your hand on your heart and feel what never left you. The soul waits not in the future, not in the next accomplishment, but right here in the stillness between this breath and the next. The mind will argue. It will insist that stillness is laziness, that presence is unproductive, that peace is earned only after every box is checked. But the soul laughs not with mockery, but with love. Because the soul knows that your worth is not a goal to achieve. It is a truth to reclaim. And when you do, when you stop trying to earn rest, and simply rest, when you stop searching for proof, and instead allow yourself to feel, when you stop waiting for a better version of yourself, and start embracing this very moment as sacred, something shifts. You begin to hear the soul's voice again. Not as thunder, but as wind. Not as command, but as clarity. Not as pressure, but as permission. You begin to move differently, not out of fear, but out of alignment. Not chasing, but allowing. Not performing, but expressing. And life, which once felt like a battle, begins to feel like a dance. You start to see the world not as an enemy to conquer, but as a mirror reflecting your beliefs, your wounds, your longing to awaken. Every challenge becomes an invitation. Every loss becomes a letting go. Every silence becomes a sanctuary. And in this sacred awareness, you stop reacting and start responding. Because you are no longer a victim of your thoughts. You are the observer, the witness. The vast space in which thought arises and falls like waves on an infinite ocean. And the ocean does not fear the waves. It simply holds them all. The joy, the sorrow, the longing, the grace. The ocean is not afraid of the storm because it knows the storm will pass. It knows that nothing can touch its depth. You are that depth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one aware of your thoughts. You are not your roles, your wounds, or your history. You are the awareness in which all of these things unfold. When the mind forgets, the soul remembers. When the mind doubts, the soul knows. When the mind contracts, the soul expands. And no matter how long you forget, or how far you drift, the soul does not lose patience. It does not shame you. It simply waits with infinite grace for the moment you remember. And so the question is not, how do I find my soul? The question is, what am I willing to let go of so I can see it again? Let go of the need to be understood. Let go of the belief that your worth must be proven. Let go of the story that healing must look like strength. Let go of the idea that you must do more to be more. The soul waits for your return, not through effort, but through surrender. And in surrender, you don't lose control, you lose the illusion that you ever needed it. You begin to trust life again. Not blindly, but deeply. Not as a plan to execute, but as a mystery to be embraced. You start to listen to the inner pull that defies logic, but feels like truth. You begin to speak less from memory and more from presence. You stop performing peace and start embodying it. And you realize the mind was never the enemy. It was just scared. It was taught to protect you by controlling everything. But now, the soul is here to teach you another way, a way of trust, a flow, of coming back to the moment where everything already exists. Let the mind wander, it will. But know this, you no longer have to follow. Stay with the soul, stay with the breath, stay with the moment. And in that stillness, you will find what you've been seeking all along, not outside you, but as you. You begin to realize that freedom is not the absence of challenges, it is the absence of identification with them. The wind still blows, the storms still pass. The world still moves in cycles of gain and loss, joy and grief, love and letting go. But you remain grounded, not in outcomes, but in awareness. This is the subtle power of the soul. It does not shield you from life, it opens you to it. It does not eliminate pain, it transforms your relationship with it. And in that transformation, you begin to touch the sacred truth beneath every wound, that nothing is wasted, and everything is here to bring you home to yourself. Even your wandering has meaning. Even your forgetting has purpose. The detour is part of the design, for without the mind's noise, how would you recognize the soul's silence? Without the ache of disconnection, how would you treasure the sweetness of remembrance? Without the illusion, how would you ever awaken to the truth? And the truth is this, you were never broken. You only believed you were. You were never alone. You only thought you were. You were never less than whole. You only forgot how to see it. The soul has never once doubted your light, only waited for you to stop dimming it for the comfort of others. You do not owe anyone your dimming. You were not born to be digestible. You were born to be radiant, to be real, to be rooted in the unwavering knowing of who and what you are. A divine expression of a limitless source, choosing to experience itself in human form, and in that form there is forgetting, but there is also remembering, and every moment is an invitation to return. You return through presence, through breath, through compassion, first for yourself, then for all things. You return by forgiving yourself for believing the lies the world sold you, that your worth depended on performance, that your body defined your beauty, that your pain disqualified your power. None of that is real. What is real cannot be taken from you. What is real lies beneath the labels. It shines through your eyes when you're not trying to impress anyone. It pulses in your chest when you tell the truth. Even when your voice shakes, it reveals itself not when you're perfect, but when you're present. And the more present you become, the more you notice how much of your life has been lived in reaction. Not from your soul, but from your wounds. Trying to prove you're enough. Trying to avoid rejection. Trying to hold together the image of someone who's okay, even when you're breaking inside. But breaking is not a failure. It is a doorway. It is what happens when the armor you've outgrown begins to crack. It is the sound of your soul reminding you that you were not meant to live inside a prison of expectations. And so the cracks appear, and through them, light pours in. The light doesn't ask for credentials. It does not request your resume of suffering or success. It enters the moment you stop resisting it, and it begins to show you the truth that your mind could never fully grasp, that you are not here to be fixed, you are here to be freed. Freed from the tyranny of your own thoughts. Freed from the identity built on wounds. Freed from the voice that says, you must become, when the soul already knows, you already are. And in this freedom, you rediscover a sacred simplicity. Life begins to breathe through you, not because you're trying, but because you've stopped obstructing it. Peace returns, not because you fought for it, but because you stopped insisting it come a certain way. Love emerges, not as a transaction, but as your natural state. Because love is what you are when the stories fall away. And when you live from that place, not sometimes, but consistently, courageously, everything changes. Not necessarily outside, but inside. Your reactions become responses. Your fear becomes clarity. Your protection becomes openness. Your life becomes less about managing and more about allowing. Allowing yourself to feel what you feel. Allowing others to be where they are without needing to control them. Allowing life to unfold without demanding that it bend to your will. This is not passivity, this is trust. This is alignment. This is what it means to walk with the soul, leading the way, to move not from fear, but from knowing. And when the mind wanders because it will, you do not shame it. You simply return. Gently, quietly, with compassion. Again and again and again. Until returning becomes your practice. Until presence becomes your path. Until you no longer confuse your thoughts with yourself. The mind will tell you, this is too slow. The soul knows, this is eternal. The mind will scream, what if it all falls apart? The soul whispers, let it. What is real will remain. The mind will say, you must do more. The soul says, you must remember. And when you remember, you don't rise as someone new, you rise as someone true. That is the purpose of this path. Not to escape life, but to enter it fully from the center of your being. Not to deny the world, but to meet it with eyes that see beyond form. Not to reach enlightenment as a destination, but to embody it moment by moment, breath by breath as your natural state. The soul waits not at the top of the mountain, but at the base of your breath. Not in some distant afterlife, but in the heartbeat you keep ignoring. Not in perfection, but in presence. So let the mind wander. Let it dream, worry, narrate, and debate. Let it dance its dance. But do not follow unless it serves your peace. Instead, turn inward. Listen. Breathe. And find, again and again, the place within that never moved. The mind wanders. The soul waits, and in your stillness they meet. There is a sacred intelligence in stillness, one the mind cannot calculate. It is not the stillness of doing nothing, it is the stillness of being everything. It is the awareness that does not rush, because it already contains the entire moment. It is the spaciousness behind every movement, the quiet behind every word, the presence beneath every heartbeat. When you begin to live from this place, your life ceases to be a reaction to circumstances. It becomes a reflection of consciousness. You are no longer chasing the external to soothe the internal. You are no longer bargaining with the universe to feel worthy. You simply are. Whole. Now. Enough. And in this state of being, something miraculous happens. Life begins to mirror your alignment. Not always in ways the mind expects, but always in ways the soul recognizes. You stop attracting lessons to wake you up because you are already awake. You stop calling in chaos to force you to surrender because you are already surrendered. You stop seeking from lack and start allowing from abundance. This is the the essence of creation, not effort, but alignment. Not struggle, but surrender to the truth that you already carry within. You are not here to prove your power. You are here to remember it. Because true power is not domination, it is embodiment. It is not force, it is presence. It is not loud, it is rooted. And it flows naturally when the mind bows to the soul, when the wandering surrenders to the waiting. The soul is not interested in outcomes, it is concerned only with truth. It does not ask, what can I get? But what can I be? And in being, everything is already included. You were not born to be a prisoner of your mind. You were born to be a portal for grace. And grace is not earned, it is allowed. It flows through the cracks of your surrender. It enters when the guards of your ego grow weary. It does not knock, it does not shout. It waits just like the soul, patiently, lovingly, faithfully. There is no punishment in the delay, only invitation. Every moment you spend wandering is another moment preparing your return. Every illusion chased makes the truth more vibrant when you finally see it. And so the game is not to defeat the mind, it is to transcend it. Not to banish thought, but to see thought for what it is. A ripple on the surface of the ocean, never touching the depth. You are that depth. Not the mask you wear to be liked. Not the voice you mimic to be accepted. Not the pain you carry as proof of your strength. You are the timeless, eternal presence in which all things arise and dissolve. You are the still point in a turning world. And the more you rest in that awareness, the more life simplifies. Not because the outer becomes easier, but because the inner becomes clear. You stop resisting what is. You stop grasping for what isn't. You stop apologizing for being you. Because the soul does not apologize, it only shines. And when you align with that radiance, your presence becomes medicine. Not because you fix others, but because your very being becomes a permission slip for them to remember their own. There is no greater gift you can give the world than your own remembrance. Not through performance, but through presence. Not through convincing, but through embodying. So pause, breathe, feel. Feel the place inside you that has never been wounded, never been afraid, never been separate. Feel the space behind your thoughts, the silence underneath your name. Feel the peace that arises not from control, but from surrender. Feel the soul that never left, only waited. Waited for you to stop searching for light outside of yourself. Waited for you to stop earning love that has always been yours. Waited for you to stop pretending, performing, defending, and finally just be. The mind wanders. The soul waits. But the moment you remember, they unite. And you are no longer divided. You are no longer seeking. You are no longer waiting. You are home. And now, you arrive at the place you never truly left, the sacred center of your being. You don't arrive through effort. You don't arrive by conquering the mind or mastering some higher plane. You arrive by remembering, by releasing, by finally laying down the heavy need to understand it all. This is the quiet miracle. That home was never somewhere you had to go. It was always where you are, always beneath the noise, always beneath the names and labels and plans. The soul has never once abandoned you, only waited for your return with the gentleness of a dawn that does not rush and the strength of a mountain that does not move. And maybe that's the point. Not to run faster or try harder or dig deeper, but to become still enough to feel what has always been present, to soften enough to let the light in, to trust enough to let go. The mind will not stop offering its stories. Let it. The world will not stop moving. Bless it. But you are learning to be the one who watches, the one who witnesses, the one who lives from the sacred now where nothing is missing. Because nothing ever was. Your worth is not a question to be answered. It is a truth to be lived. Your peace is not a goal to be earned. It is a frequency to return to. And your soul is not a destination. It is the stillness within your very breath, here, now, whispering, you are already what you seek. So breathe. Let the moment hold you. Let the presence carry you. Let the wandering settle into waiting, and the waiting into knowing. And in that knowing, walk gently through this life. Not as someone trying to become, but as someone who remembers. Not as a seeker, but as a presence. Not as a fixer, but as a light. Because you are no longer chasing truth. You are living it, and the soul is no longer waiting. It is finally walking with you. Home, always, now, forever.